Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Jeanne Daniels, and I'm honored to serve on your board of directors. For those of you who may be new to us, and those of you tuning in from near and far, welcome. We are so grateful to be able to connect with you. We are a community of many faith journeys and beliefs, committed to being deliberately diverse and fully inclusive. We want you to know that whoever you are, you belong here. We are a community that is resilient and committed to healing, does the work that needs to be done, and commits to maintaining and establishing our relationships. Let us continue to stand on the side of love together. Thank you for being with us today. May this be a comforting, centering, and restorative moment for you. If you would like to learn more about our community, or if you would like to keep up with current church events, upcoming actions, such as the food drive we held yesterday, you can visit our website at richmonduu.org. If you're interested in how you can further your connection and learn more about the mission of the church, please contact Margaret Rush at margaret.rush@richmonduu.org. Please make sure also to log into the services early to catch all of the announcements that precede our services and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Be well.
Welcome, everyone, to a time of worship. We're glad you're here. I'm glad you chose to spend some time with us on this Sunday morning or later on YouTube. Our worship today is about the changing of seasons and how we sometimes resist that even when we know nature will teach us to persevere. We'll hear a little bit about some tomatoes that are at the end of their lives, about Ralph Waldo Emerson, and maybe a little bit about our own lives and our willingness to move forward in difficult days. Thank you for coming to be with us, and welcome. We're very glad to have you be part of today's service. Our reading today is called September Tomatoes by Karina Borowitz. The whiskey stink of rot has settled in the garden, and a burst of fruit flies rises when I touch the dying tomato plants. Still, the claws of tiny yellow blossoms flail in the air as I pull up the vines by their roots and toss them into the compost. It feels cruel. Something in me isn't ready to let go of summer so easily. To destroy what I've carefully cultivated all these months. Those pale flowers might still bear fruit. Please join me now for a time of reflection.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
There is a lot to be done these days. I know that all of you want to contribute as best you can to the community in these difficult times. In part, that's why our Share the Plate this month is for Majid Bilal's food pantry. Money is going to Majid Bilal so that they can go to Feed More and buy food. They serve largely an African American population in Church Hill. a group adversely affected by COVID, adversely affected by economics, and adversely affected by an enduring 400-year history of oppression. And we've run a food drive, a literal drop the food off food drive. Bring your body and the food, and we're bringing it to Sacred Heart, our partner on South Richmond, serving the Latinx community, largely families that are in the schools of Richmond, doing the work that's difficult outside, taking care of people's houses and lawns and construction, but also the families of Cardinal School students whom we served, previously known as Green School. Now, if you missed the food drive and you want to participate, Tuesday morning, 8 to 11, we will receive your food in the courtyard at the church, the front door courtyard, and we will make sure it gets to Sacred Heart. If you've missed until now Majid Bilal, or if you have some means that you could share this week with Majid Bilal, that too is appreciated. Because in this month of September, we are feeding Richmond to the best of our ability, to the Latinx and African American community, and we are trying to serve and act for justice. I hope you're taking part. If not, you know what to do. The offering will now be taken and gratefully shared. I never quite know when to cut down my tomatoes. They look a little scraggly. There's new growth at the top and thin, scraggly stems at the bottom. There are some fruits on them, and they're pretty dark green, not light green yet. Should I cut them down? Should I leave them until they start to turn light green? Should I take them inside? I never know. I want to be fair to the tomatoes and the plants, but ultimately everything does wind up in the compost pile. When seasons change, we have attitudes about them. It's been getting cooler. It's been getting darker. It's actually even been raining acorns in my backyard. You may hear a few during the sermon. And what that always reminds me is that I love the fall. I truly do. The winter's okay for a few weeks, and I'm done with it. Thank goodness in Richmond it's not very bad. And then it's spring, and I do love spring, but I'm often too busy to pay as much attention as I should. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is our religious forebear, would be disappointed in me for that. He was a man who loved living where he lived in Concord. He loved taking his daily walks out into the countryside, where he said he was profoundly rich, not because he owned the farms he could see, and he could name who owned every one of them, but because the landscape was totally free to him just for the effort of standing on a ridge. He and his friends would walk and discuss their ideas. They would consider what the meaning of belief was, whether there was a purpose to suffering. They would notice loss and difficulty, but they would treasure also the friendships that made it possible for them to share the beauty of nature. Because to them, nature instructed us in how to live, and it instructed us about the nature of the divine. In times that are really difficult, I think it's good for us to consider the nature of the divine. Now, I know not everyone here is a believer that there is anything beyond this life. A lot of us are very committed to what is material and to seeing only what is material as being valuable. That is, except for love and hope and happiness and other things that aren't material. And the challenge comes in that, trying to figure out how to categorize those things and know where to place them. But others of us do believe that there's some sort of greater consciousness, some intelligence out there, which we're invited to connect with. And it's out of different traditions that we arrive here, out of no tradition. And the joy of being a Unitarian Universalist is that you get to hang out with people who have the same sort of questions that Waldo Emerson and Thoreau and others questioned on their walks overlooking nature. But that's what we do agree on, isn't it? Nature? That nature can inspire us. And that though it can inspire us, sometimes we don't have a steady diet of it in our daily lives. More nature is better. I cannot tell you how many people have sent me an email, chatted, sent me a text to let me know how happy they have been to be in my backyard for services. I can't stay here forever. I actually brought a blanket with me today. I didn't know how chill it would be. But the challenge that we face is trying to extract the insight from nature about what is divine or what is true, what is ultimate. At the very least, it points to a greater universe that has purpose and persistence. And purpose and persistence are good things to have. Everybody reacts differently to difficult times. Last week, I watched as everyone had an opinion on the death of Justice Ginsburg and what would happen next and why it should happen. That's how it is these days. We're very much tied to the expectation of giving our opinion. But the transcendentalists in Concord and the rest of New England had a different attitude about some things. Oh, they opined aplenty. Just read Thoreau's essay on nature. But they asked a lot of questions, and they valued greatly the curiosity that you need to get through difficult times and ordinary days as well. Why do you love trees? Why is it that a visit to the edge of the James puts things into perspective? How come gardening calms you? Why do flowers delight wherever we find them? And why does nature inspire and create awe in us so convincingly that we find ourselves in the presence of magnificent, beautiful nature, spring, summer, fall, or winter, asking ourselves the question, I wonder if there is a God. When you stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon, it's a pretty common question. We're facing difficult days. In the beginning, we didn't know what to expect. Then we started to have ideas. Then we found out our ideas were wrong. You may remember that in our sermons, some of your ministers pointed to the fact that some people were treating it like a snowstorm and it would be over in 5 days. Others were treating it like the onset of winter and it would be gone in a season. But still others saw it and thought of it as the coming ice age, something that would be with us and last and really change things forever. And the thing that happens is if you don't see the long arc, then you cannot have a say in how things will change forever. So one of the things I'm inviting all of us to do is this. See that this will be with us, ongoing. So there isn't going to be a new normal. Oh, we'll get vaccines and we'll get them distributed eventually. But we will be changed. And we'll be aware of all the other possible pandemics and the need to prepare for them, lest we fail to honor the 200,000 people who have died from just this one disease. It's also true, though, that this will last for an extended time, not a season. It's only my hope that we'll be able to gather in person next fall, but lately, what I'm reading tells me it could be spring of 2022 or fall. I'm not someone who calls down doom on the circumstances. I'm pretty much an optimist. But in our considerations, there has to be a pragmatism, lest too great a disappointment set us down too hard. So talking with others, being in a small group, attending events that we're having, receiving those invitations to a Zoom meeting. Don't start with the idea, oh, another Zoom meeting, because I can tell you, I've got more of them than you. You never know when the next Zoom meeting will lead to a deep and powerful sharing among folks. We'll display a great compassion and community awareness when people will say things that are revelatory, like a walk with Waldo Emerson. That's possible. And it's the possible that we have to focus on. So let's see how long this could go and be pragmatic about it. That way, we inoculate ourselves against too high an expectation and too low an outcome. Let's commit ourselves to perseverance. My friend the oak there, a Civil War time tree. It's lasted through a golf course and development and a lot of neglect, I suspect. It's here now, and it's persisted throughout. That's a story from nature. And the other thing, of course, is to step more into community. I hear stories about people who don't come to the Sunday service because it isn't the same, as though the only church we could have is the same, never changing. That view is orthodox, unlike us. That's not our religious tradition at all. If you knew the ways our services have changed, you'd find it amazing. Otherwise, you'd be listening to me preach for an hour and a half every Sunday evening. Now, folks, these things I'm talking about are spiritual practices as much as they are behavioral changes. Yes, I know. We have a lot of counselors and psychologists, and I'm not disrespecting at all your professions. They're very helpful and necessary in our society today. But you and I both know that our ability to tame the wildness of our spirit can help us settle in, be wiser about our decisions. That's why a recent study shows that the most resilient people are elders, because they've had enough experience to understand that you need to see the big picture, that you need to persevere, and you need to get into community to discuss it. And what comes of that? What comes of us when we open up our view of how things might be to consider all the possibilities? When we persevere and have a forward-leaning direction? When we go into community and discuss things with people and listen to what they say to us and not just spill out everything we feel, then the derivative that comes from that formula, that spiritual result, is a thing called hope. And hope is a necessity these days. Please, if you are without hope, text, call myself, Reverend Sherman, Reverend Sue, Lay Pastoral Care. Let us know if you are without hope, and we'll be with you and start to renew what can bring that. And if you're a person who treats hope cavalierly and it comes and it goes and you don't really know why, try the formula. Adopt a spiritual discipline. Spiritual disciplines are great teachers in how to open our lives to greater possibility. And last, as we note that we're moving into fall and ultimately to winter and beyond, let's get out and see nature. Offer ourselves time to be inspired by nature, to be informed by nature, to be educated by nature as to the persistence that's possible. We do all these things in community. If you want or would like someone to join you in doing something, post it on the Facebook group, offer it up, start a new group with some other people. Because together we can arrive at hope. Blessed be. Amen, Ashe, Amen.
It's a long road, but we'll get there. It's a long road, but we'll get there. It's a long road, yes, we'll get there. It's a long, long road, but we'll get there. Will I see you there on that long road? Will I see you there on that long road? Hope to see you there on that long road. Oh, the justice road is a long road. Gotta keep on moving down that long road. Gotta keep on moving down that long road. Yes, I'll keep on moving down that long road. Oh, the justice road is a long road. Oh, let's keep on moving down that justice road. Yes, we'll keep on moving down that justice road. We're gonna keep on moving down that justice road. 'Cause the justice road is a long road. It's a long, curvy road on this justice road. Well, it's a long, curvy road on this justice road. We're gonna keep on moving. We're gonna keep on moving. We're gonna keep on moving down this justice road.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace. A time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.